Most engineers who reach $200,000 don't stay there for long, not because they fail, because the system does not allow them to remain at that level indefinitely. What looks like arrival is often temporary, and what feels like stability at the top is usually conditional. The position exists as long as it is justified, not as long as it is reached, and justification does not last by default. Now, the assumption is simple. Once you reach $200,000, you have secured your position. The hard part is over. But that assumption breaks quickly. High compensation is not a fixed state. It is a continuously evaluated position. You are not holding a level. You are justifying it over time. And justification does not happen once. It happens repeatedly. You are evaluated not just on what you did, but on what you continue to deliver. Past success establishes the expectation. It does not secure the position. What got you there becomes the baseline, not the advantage. And once it becomes the baseline, it stops protecting your position. Now, expectations increase at that level. Companies do not pay $200,000 for consistency alone. They expect impact, visibility, and continued relevance. The margin for error becomes smaller. The tolerance for stagnation decreases. What was acceptable at lower levels is no longer enough. The system raises the bar as compensation increases, and that bar continues to move. What was once exceptional becomes expected over time. Performance normalizes quickly at higher levels. Differentiation becomes harder to sustain over time. Now, competition does not stop after reaching the top range. It intensifies. New candidates enter with stronger profiles, newer skills, and better alignment with current systems. Engineers who reached $200,000 earlier now compete with those entering under different conditions. The system continuously refreshes the pool, and replacement becomes easier over time. Experience alone does not protect position. The system always has new candidates ready to enter at that level. New entrants are often better aligned with current demands. They are evaluated against current needs, not past performance. The system compares you to what is needed now, not what you achieved before. Now, positioning becomes fragile. High-paying roles are tied to specific systems, teams, and conditions. If those conditions change, the role changes with them. Projects end. Teams restructure. Priorities shift. What created the $200,000 position may no longer exist, and when that happens, the compensation often does not remain. The role adapts, or it disappears, and compensation adjusts with it. High compensation follows conditions, not individuals. When conditions shift, compensation follows the shift. The role does not protect the pay, the conditions do. Now, visibility works in both directions. At lower levels, lack of visibility limits growth. At higher levels, visibility exposes performance continuously. You are evaluated more directly, more frequently, and with higher expectations. Sustaining performance becomes more important than reaching it, and sustained performance becomes harder over time. Consistency at that level requires continuous adjustment. Maintaining position becomes an active process, not a passive one. Stability requires continuous alignment, not just past achievement. Now, timing plays a different role. Some engineers reach $200,000 during periods of expansion, growth, or favorable market conditions, but those conditions do not last. When the system contracts or stabilizes, the same roles become harder to maintain. What was once accessible becomes restricted, and what was once stable becomes conditional. Stability depends on factors you do not control. Market shifts, internal priorities, and leadership changes all influence outcomes. Now, long-term dynamics reinforce this instability. Technologies shift, systems evolve, priorities change, skills that were valuable become less critical. Engineers who do not adapt quickly lose alignment with what the system values. And at higher levels, misalignment has faster consequences. Change accelerates pressure at the top. The faster the system evolves, the harder it is to remain aligned. Now, risk becomes visible. At lower levels, stagnation is the main risk. At higher levels, replacement is. Engineers can remain highly paid and still lose position quickly if they fall out of alignment. The system does not protect high compensation. It reevaluates it constantly, and reevaluation becomes stricter over time. The system does not lower expectations once you reach that level. Expectations accumulate instead of resetting. Each cycle adds pressure instead of reducing it. The system expects more over time, not less. Now, the system reinforces this pattern. High-paying roles are limited, competitive, and conditional. They exist as long as they are justified. The moment that justification weakens, the role becomes vulnerable. Stability decreases as compensation increases. The higher the pay, the lower the margin for error. Small misalignment can have disproportionate consequences. Final verdict. Reaching $200,000 is not the end of progression. It is the start of a different kind of pressure. The system does not reward arrival, it rewards continued alignment. And most engineers who reach that level do not stay there, not because they cannot, because the system does not allow most people to remain at the top for long. And once that position is lost, returning becomes significantly harder, because the system rarely restores the same position twice. Once the system reallocates that level, it rarely assigns it back in the same way. The system moves forward, not back to you.